If you're lying down, maybe place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart. And just draw your awareness to your breath. Letting go of any thoughts or feelings on each of your exhales. Slowly start to scan your body. Notice any areas of tension or strain that you may be feeling. Just try to soften and releasing any tension you may be feeling and relaxing into your mat. Often our minds, our monkey minds, going from one thought to the other. Just try to set the intention in your practice this evening to just step back and be aware of your thoughts. Don't attach any feelings to your thoughts. Just start to notice how you feel and what your mind is trying to tell you with its constant chatter. If you're seated, come down to lying on your mat. And hug both knees into your chest. Give yourself a nice little hug. Maybe rock side to side. And then find stillness in the middle. Focusing in on your breath. And then hug your right knee in towards your chest and extend your left leg out long. Pausing here. Take a few slow, deep breaths. Keep your right hand on your right knee. Bring your left hand to your left hip. Slowly draw your knee over towards the right side of your mat, opening your hip. Root down through your left sit bone, ground down through your left hip. And just take a few slow, deep breaths here, softening into the stretch in your inner right thigh, in your hip. And bring your right knee back to center. Extend your right leg up towards the sky, Wrap your hands behind your right hamstring and hug your right leg in towards your chest. Soften into the stretch in your right hamstring. If you'd like to go a little further in this stretch, you can bring your hands up towards your right calf. And if you want to, you can have the option to bend your left knee, place your left foot on the mat. Gives you a little added support. Stay here for 2 more cycles of breath. And bring your right knee in towards your chest, hug it in. If you bent your left knee, extend it out long. Place your left hand on the outside edge of your right knee. Anchor your right arm out to a T and drop your left knee over your right knee over towards the left side of your mat. Gaze over your right shoulder, come into a supine twist. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. And bring your right knee back to center. Give it one more hug in towards your chest. And then extend your right leg out long. Take a moment to pause here. Notice any differences you may be feeling in the right leg versus your left. And then hug your left knee in towards your chest. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Place your left hand on your left knee. Bring your right hand down towards your right hip. And extend your left knee out to the left side, opening through the left hip. Feel the stretch in your hip, in your inner thigh. Feel the weight of your hand pulling your knee towards the ground. If your right hip starts to lift off the mat, just bring your left knee closer to center. Keep that rooted down on the mat. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And then bring your left knee back to center. Extend your left foot up towards the sky. Clasp your hands behind your left hamstring or your left calf and hug your leg in towards your body. You can go ahead and bend that right knee, placing your right foot on the mat if that feels good for you. Soften into the stretch in your left hamstring. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And then bend your left knee, hug your knee in towards your chest. Stretch your right leg out long if you bent it. Place your right hand on your left knee. Anchor your left arm out to the side and drop your left knee over towards the right side of your mat. Gaze over your left shoulder. Come into a supine twist. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And then slowly draw your knee back to center and stretch it out long. Stretch your arms out overhead. Stretch out through your toes. Come into morning stretch. You can maybe wiggle your fingers and toes if that feels good for you. And then hug both knees in towards your chest. Stretch both feet up towards the sky. Bend your left knee, cross your right ankle over your left knee, clasp behind your left hamstring or shin, come into recline figure 4. Soften into the stretch in your right outer hip. Focus in on your breath. We're here for 3 more cycles of breath. And release your feet down to the mat and cross your right foot. Place it back down on the mat. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Stretch both feet up towards the ceiling. Bend your right knee, cross your left ankle over your right knee. Clasp behind your right hamstring or shin. Come into reclined figure 4 on the second side. Take a few slow, deep breaths here, softening in. We're here for 2 more cycles of breath. And release both feet back down to the mat. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. And then make your way up to a seated position. And come over to tabletop. Bring your big toes together, knees out wide. Sink your hips back. Bring your forehead down to the mat. Stretch your arms forward. Come into child's pose. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And then start to walk your hands over towards the right side of your mat. Maybe stack your left hand on top of the right. Feel the stretch in your left side body. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. then walk your hands back to center. Lower your forehead down to the mat. Sink your hips back. Come into child's pose. And slowly walk your hands over towards the left side of your mat. You have the option to stack your right hand on top of your left. Soften into the stretch in your right side body. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And come back to center. Slowly rise up to tabletop. Bring your wrists in line with your shoulders, knees in line with your hips. And start to take a few cat-cows with your breath, sinking your chest forward, tailbone tilts towards the sky. Come into cow pose. And then pull your belly button in towards your spine. Come into cat. Go ahead and move with the rhythm of your breath. And come back to neutral spine. Start to walk your hands out in front of you. Lower your forehead or chin to the mat. Come into puppy dog pose. Your hips are in line with your knees. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. And walk your hands back up. Come into tabletop. Stretch your right foot behind you. You have the option to keep your right foot here on the mat, or you can lift your foot off the mat, bring your leg hip to hip level, flex through your right foot. You have the option to stay here or extend your left arm out in front of you, coming into a spinal balance. Engage your core, find your balance. Stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. Everybody looks good. And lower down. Extend your left foot behind you. Option to stay here or lift your left foot up to hip level. You have the option to stay here or extend your right arm out in front of you, coming into spinal balance. Flex through your left foot. Engage your core. If you start to shake, that's okay. Find your focal point. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And lower your right hand down to the mat, left knee down to the mat. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together. Sink your hips back. Arms stretch out in front of you. Forehead comes down to the mat. Come into child's pose. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And bring your hands to prayer position in front of you. And slowly lower your thumbs down towards your neck. Stretch your elbows out in front of you, stretching out through your triceps. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. You have the option to walk your elbows forward for a deeper stretch. At any time, if this feels uncomfortable, you can come back to child's pose. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And release your hands down to the mat. Slowly rise up to tabletop. Ground down through the palms. Tuck your toes under. Lift your hips up and back. Come into down dog. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. This is your first down dog of the day. You can go ahead and play here, maybe coming up onto your tippy toes, maybe trying to sink your heels down towards the mat. Take a moment to explore here. And then extend your right leg high in the air and thread it through for low lunge. Lower your left knee down to the mat. Untuck your left toes. Slowly sink your hips back. Straighten your right leg. Come into runner stretch. Try to square your hips. Stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. Soften into the stretch in your right hamstring. And slowly bend into your right knee. Come forward into low lunge. Slowly rise up. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Soften into the stretch in your left hip flexor. And lower your hands back down to the mat. Place your left hand on the mat. Extend your right arm overhead, twisting open to the right side. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Gaze can be up towards your right fingers. And bring your right hand back down to frame your front foot. Tuck your left toes. Lift your left knee off the mat. Step back to down dog. Take a moment to find your breath here. And inhale, lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Drop your right knee down to the mat. Untuck your right toes. Slowly start to straighten your left knee. Sink your hips back, come into runner stretch. Bow over your left leg. Try to keep your hips square. Take a few slow, deep breaths here, softening into the stretch in your left hamstring. And bend into your left knee. Come up to low lunge. Slowly start to rise up Extend your arms overhead. Melt your shoulders away from your ears. Engage your core. Feel the stretch in your right hip flexor. Take a few slow, deep breaths here, rooting down through your left foot. Lower your hands back down to frame your left foot. Place your right hand on the mat. Extend your left arm overhead. Twist open to the left side. Gaze up over your left fingers. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. And lower your left hand back down to frame your front foot. Tuck your right toes. Lift your right knee off the mat. Step back to down dog. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And come forward to plank. Make sure your wrists are in line with your shoulders. You're engaging your quads and your core. Pause here. Keeping your elbows hugging in close to your body. Slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes. Hands are under your shoulders. Feet are pushing in to the mat. Quads are engaged. Slowly lift your heart off the mat. Squeezing your shoulder blades together. Come into Cobra. Pause here for a few slow, deep breaths. And lower your chest back down to the mat. Tuck your toes. Lift up and push back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. Extend your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through to low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Engage your core. Keep your hips square. Root down through the soles of your feet. Anchor your left heel down. Bring your arms parallel to the mat. Sink into your right knee. Come into warrior two. Gaze over your right fingers. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Flip your front palm. Reach your right arm overhead. Left hand reaches down your left leg. Come into reverse warrior. Feel the stretch in your right side body. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And then slowly rise back up to warrior two. Bend your right elbow. Place your right forearm on your right thigh. Extend your left arm over her head or in line with your ear. Come into extended side angle. You have the option to stay here, or you can drop your right hand down to the mat or take a bind. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. Grounding down through the soles of your feet, slowly rise back up to warrior two. Slowly start to straighten your right leg. Turn your right toes towards the left side of your mat. Interlace your fingers behind you. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Your toes can be pointed in towards each other, heels out a bit. Slowly lower down. Fold forward, extend your arms overhead. Keep a micro bend in your knees. Release any tension you may be holding in your neck. You should be able to shake your head yes and no. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. Start to lower your hands down towards your back. Release your hands, bring your hands to your hips. Keeping your back nice and straight, rise all the way up to standing. Inhale, extend your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Turn your right toes towards the front of your mat. Bend into your right knee. Extend your arms out to a T, come into warrior two. Pause here. And then windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your left heel. Step back to plank. Engage your quads, tighten through your core. You have the option to take a chaturanga here, or we will all meet in down dog. If you're following along, we're going to lower all the way down. Come into cobra or up dog. And push back to down dog. Take a moment to find your breath here. And inhale, lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through to low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Engage your core. Stay nice and tall through the crown. And anchor your left heel down. Spin your arms, your right heel down, Spin your arms open, parallel to the mat. Sink into your left knee. Come into warrior two. Gaze over your left fingers. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Flip your front palm. Come into reverse warrior, stretching your left arm overhead. Right arm stretches down towards your right calf. Feel the stretch in your left side body. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. And slowly rise back up to warrior two. Bend your left elbow. Place your left forearm on your left thigh. Extend your arm overhead or in line with your ear. Come into extended side angle. You have the option to stay here, or you can drop your left hand down to the mat or a block if you have one. You also have the option to take a bind. Take note of your left foot. Is your weight in your left heel or in your toes? Try to position yourself to evenly distribute your weight. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. Rounding down through the soles of your feet, slowly rise back up to warrior two. Start to straighten your left leg. Turn your left toes towards the right side of your mat. Come into a wide leg stand. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Placing your hands down on the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Pause here. Place your left hand on the mat. Extend your right arm overhead. Your left arm can be straight. You can have it bent. You can have it on a block if you'd like. If you have any shoulder pain, you can bring your right hand behind your back, or you can just stay in a forward fold. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And lower your right hand back down to the mat. Keep your right hand rooted down in the mat. Extend your left arm overhead or tuck it behind your back, gazing over your left shoulder. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. And bring your left hand back down to the mat. Fold forward. Bring your hands to your hips, keeping your spine nice and straight. Rise all the way up to standing. Turn your left toes towards the top of your mat. Bend into your left knee, come into warrior two. Pause here. And then windmill your hand back down to frame your front foot, spin off your back heel, step back to plank. Pause here. Tighten through your core. Engage your quads. You have the option to take a chaturanga here, or we'll go all meet in down dog. So if you want to lower down, you can come into cobra or up dog and push back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. Focus in on your breath. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for a low lunge. Step your left foot up to meet your right and bow forward. Bring your hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Bring your big toes together. Leave a little space between your heels. Hands at heart center. We're slowly sinking our hips down, come into chair pose. You have the option to keep your hands at heart center. You can extend them straight out in front of you or bring them in line with your ears. Remember to melt your shoulders away from your ears. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And fold forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, step your left foot back, come into low lunge. Ground down through the palms. Step back to plank. You can take a vinyasa here, or we will all meet in down dog. So lower all the way down. Come into cobra or up dog. Exhale back to down dog. Pause here. Extend your left leg high in the air. Thread it through for low lunge. Pause here. Bring your right foot up to meet your left. Bow forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Bring your big toes together, little space between your heels. Sink your hips down, come into chair pose. You can take whatever variation you would like to with your arms, either keeping it at heart center, extended out in front of you, or in line with your ears. Stay here for 2 more cycles of breath. And release your hands down to the mat, come into a forward fold. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms down, step your right foot back, come into low lunge. Pause here. Ground down through your palms of your hands and step back to plank. You have the option to take a vinyasa here, or we will all meet in down dog. Lower all the way down. Inhale to cobra or up dog. Exhale back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Take a moment to pause here. And then anchor your left heel down. Bring your arms parallel to the mat, sink into your right knee, come into warrior two. Settle in here. Take a few slow, deep breaths. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And then bring your arms back to parallel, come into warrior two. Slowly start to straighten your right knee, hinge at your hips, bring your right hand down to your right shin, to the mat, or to a block. Extend your left arm overhead, stack your shoulders, open your heart, gaze up towards the ceiling or straight out in front of you. Come into triangle. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Start to bend into your right knee, ground down through the soles of your feet, and slowly come back up to warrior two. Take a moment to pause here. And windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your left heel. Place your left hand on the mat. Stretch your right arm overhead. Come into easy twist. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And bring your right hand back down to frame your front foot. Step back to plank. Tighten your core, engage your quads. Come back down to bent elbows, come into chaturanga. Come into cobra or up dog. Exhale back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. Inhale your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Engage your core. Spin your right heel down to the mat. Bring your arms parallel to the ground. Come into warrior two. Your left knee should be tracking towards your left pinky toe. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Pause here. And then slowly rise back up to warrior two. Start to straighten your left knee. Hinge at your hips. Bring your left hand down to your shin, to the mat, or to a block. Extend your right arm overhead. Stack your shoulders. Opening through your heart. Gaze up towards the ceiling or straight out in front of you. Remember to keep a micro bend in your left knee. Stay here for 2 more cycles of breath. Bend into the left knee. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise your arms back up to parallel to the mat. Come into warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Keep your left hand or your right hand rooted down in the mat. Extend your left arm overhead. Come into easy twist. Take a moment to pause here. Focusing in on your breath. And lower your left hand back down to the mat. Step back to plank. You have the option to take a vinyasa here, or we will all meet in down dog. Lower down, come into cobra or up dog. Exhale back to down dog. Pause here. Take a few slow, deep breaths. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Pause here. And step your left foot up to meet your right. Bow forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Take a moment to pause here. Feel your feet against the mat. Feel grounded. Tune in. Find your balance. Ground down through your left foot. Bend your right knee. Reach your right hand back. Grab the inside of your right foot. You have the option to stay here, or you can extend your left arm overhead. Option to stay here, or slowly tilt forward, kick your right foot back, come into dancer's pose. Or maybe not. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. Kicking your right foot into the right hand. Extending your left arm out in front of you. Root down through your left foot. And slowly rise back up. Release your right foot, lower your left hand. Take a big inhale and a big exhale. Bend your left knee. Place your left hand on the inside of your left foot. Extend your right arm overhead. You have the option to stay here, or you can slowly start to tilt forward, kicking that left foot into the left palm, coming into dancer's pose. Grounding down through your right foot, feeling strong through your right standing leg, gauging your back muscles, your glute. Find your focal point. And maybe today's not your day for dancer's pose, but try to stay with it for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly rise back up. Release your left foot. Release your right hand down. Come in to Tadasana. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. And step back to down dog. Take a moment to find your breath here. Inhale, reach your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. And then step your right foot up to meet your left. Fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Start to heel toe your feet towards the outside edges of your mat. Heels come in towards each other, toes pointed out towards the outside of your mat. Sink your hips down. Bring your hands to heart center. Your elbows push in towards your knees. Knees push into your elbows. Come into Malasana or Yogi Squat. If this feels uncomfortable, you can come back off. Maybe only come down to this far. Maybe place a blanket under your heels. This is your practice. Find what works for you. At any time, if this feels uncomfortable, just come out of the asana. Come into a standing position. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And lower your hands down to the mat. Slowly start to straighten your legs. Lift your hips up towards the sky and heel toe your feet back to center. Fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, swan dive forward. Ground down through your palms. Step back to down dog. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, place your right foot on the outside edge of your right hand. You have the option to stay here, or you can lower your left knee down to the mat, untuck your left toes. Option to stay here, or lower down to your elbows, or you can lower down to a block if you have one. Come into lizard pose. You have the option to keep your knee hugging in towards your right shoulder, or you can come onto the outside edge of your right foot. And let your right knee splay out to the side. Find what works for you. Relax in. We're here for 5 slow, deep breaths. Check in with that back foot. Make sure your foot isn't sickling in. Should be straight, pointing towards the back of your mat. Soften in. If you lower down to your elbows, rise back up onto your palms. If you lowered your left knee on the mat, lift it up and step your right foot back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here and extend your left leg high in the air. Place your left foot on the outside edge of your left hand. You have the option to stay here, or you can lower your right knee down to the mat, untucking your right toes. Option to stay here or lower your elbows down to the mat or a block. You can roll over onto the left side of your left foot, or you can hug your knee in towards your left shoulder. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. This is a great time to check in and see what your chattering mind is saying to you right now. Just step back and notice what is going on inside your mind. Try to let go of any thoughts and just focus in on your breath. If you lower down to your elbows, slowly start to rise back up. Tuck your right toes under, lift your right knee off the mat, and step back to down dog. Take another big inhale here in down dog. And a big exhale. Lower your knees down to the mat and come into a seated position. Grounding down through your sits bones. Sit up nice and tall. Extend your arms out to a T. Cross your right arm over to the left side. Hook your left arm under your right. Hug your right arm in towards your body. Feel the stretch in your right shoulder. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. to your knees. Extend your arms out to a T. Cross your left arm over to the right side. Hook your right arm under your left. Squeeze your left arm in towards your body. Stay nice and tall through the crown. Stay here for a few slow, deep breaths. And release your hands down to your knees. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, drop your right arm behind you, left arm in front of you, gaze over your right shoulder. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. On your inhale, grow tall through your crown. And on your exhale, try to twist a little deeper. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And come back to center. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, drop your left arm behind you, right arm in front of you. Gaze over your left shoulder. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Growing tall on each inhale and twisting in a little deeper on each exhale. We're here for 3 more cycles of breath. And come back to center. Stretch your legs out wide. And externally rotate your thighs towards the back of the mat. Grounding down through your sits bones. Inhale, sweep your arms overhead. Exhale, slowly start to lower your chest towards the mat. Hands can come to the mat in front of you. Bow forward. Breathe into the stretch here. Maybe you find a little space to walk your hands out forward. If you find your edge, you can always back off if you need to. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly start to walk your hands back in towards your chest or towards your body. You can close your legs together. Bring your feet flat on the mat, knees pointing towards the ceiling. Slowly lower all the way down. Come into a supine position. Your hands can come down beside your hips. Make sure your ankles are in line with your knees. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Tighten through your glutes. Come into bridge. You have the option to stay here, or you can walk your shoulder blades in towards each other. Interlace your fingers, opening through your heart. Remember to squeeze your glutes. Stay here for 5 slow, deep breaths. Keep your hips pointing towards the sky. Release your hands. Slowly lower your hips down to the mat. Maybe windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to stillness in the middle. We're going to take one more bridge here. You have the option to do just as we did. You could take a restorative bridge if you have a block and you want to place it underneath your sacrum, or you can come into wheel if that is in your practice. Whatever you would like to do, go ahead and set up for that now. If you're following along with me, we're going to bring our hands down next to our hips, ground down through the soles of our feet, slowly lift our hips up towards the ceiling, tighten through the glutes. You can interlace your fingers, walk your shoulder blades together, open through your heart. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Take 2 more deep breaths here. And release your hands, walk your shoulders out, slowly lower your hips back down to the mat. If you like, you can windshield wiper your knees. And come back to stillness in the middle. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Extend your feet up towards the ceiling. Flip your palms up towards the sky. Come into legs up the wall. You can stay here, or you can go into any inversion you would like at this time. Maybe you'd like to go into plow. Maybe you'd like to go into shoulder stand or headstand. Whatever's in your practice, go ahead and do so now. Stay with me for 5 slow, deep breaths. Go ahead and hug both knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. Keep your knees in a 90-degree angle. Anchor both arms out to a T. Slowly drop your knees over towards the left side of your mat. Gaze over your right shoulder. Come into supine twist. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And bring your knees back up to center. Pause here in the middle. And then drop your knees over towards the right side, gaze over your left shoulder. Come into supine twist on the second side. Relax in. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And bring your knees back to center. Hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side. Maybe grab for the outside edges of your feet or your hamstrings and come into happy baby. At this time, I invite you to do anything you need to do to complete your practice today before you make your way into Shavasana. When you're ready, find your relaxation pose. You extend your feet to the outside edges of your mat, letting your toes flap open to the sides. Flipping your palms towards the sky, closing your eyes, tuning into your breath, feeling the weight of your body relax into the floor, melting into the mat, softening in through your eyes, through the space between your eyes, softening your cheeks and your jaw, relaxing your tongue and your mouth, relaxing through your throat, your neck, softening your shoulders, softening through the tops of your arms and your elbows, relaxing the upper back, relaxing the lower back and the hips, softening through your forearms and your wrists, relaxing your fingers, softening in through your thighs and your hamstrings, relaxing your knees and your calves, softening through your ankles and your feet, relaxing your toes, letting go of any tension you're feeling in your body.